When you first start learning a subject, you come to this realization that, wow, this is so easy. I now know everything. This is a very common phenomenon where a person's lack of knowledge or skill actually causes them to overestimate their competence in some sort of area. And that's really where you don't know what you don't know because there's so much to learn. You learn a very small piece of it and you think that you know the entire picture, when in reality, you know nothing. And that is when you are in the incompetence, which I think is actually pretty dangerous, where probably 99% of people are on most talking points with regards to politics, if you start some sort of online business, if you are just reading a book on some sort of subject in, let's say, geopolitics or economics or any subject where you spend 20, 30 minutes learning about it, and then you think that you understand it without understanding the 100 other implications that go into the broader picture, which allows you to see the whole image per se. And this is really where most people are, which is why you hear the exact same talking points in most conversations regarding any controversial piece. You really just regurgitate what you've heard from whatever your favorite source of media is, whether it's right or left or neutral. It doesn't really matter. It's very easy to just regurgitate the main talking points and think that you sound very smart. Or think that business should be super easy because you get lucky with the 1 month closing some sort of client. Or you think you are a great salesperson because you close 3 people on your first week. That is one of the most dangerous things that can happen. If you get really lucky and have, let's say, a video blow up on YouTube, you think that, wow, I'm so great at what I do. But then what starts to happen is you work for another year and you don't get those same results. Let's say you're a salesman and you close 3 deals over the next 2 months, where you close 3 in the first week. And then you think, wow, this absolutely sucks. Everybody's here against me. Eventually you get to a stage where you are an advanced beginner and you start to become aware of your incompetence. And you realize that small piece of the pie that you thought was everything is actually nothing in comparison to the grand scheme. And that is a very naive way of thinking. Until you start to learn a lot about a subject, this is very, very common that someone thinks that they are just great at everything and they can pick something up and it's super easy and they're super smart. But until you really get really good at something, which I would not consider myself an expert in anything, I think that takes 5+ years, maybe even 7+ years to get to become an expert in just about anything as to what you are doing. But the main thing is it's so easy to overestimate your ability. Having a degree of humility when coming into these things, realizing that you probably don't know everything. And the small tidbit that you learned by either reading or watching or consuming somehow is pretty much common knowledge to most people in that field. And you did not learn something special. That is the reality of the situation. There is a lot of people who have, let's say, an investment thesis around something. Let's just take the gold bugs, for example. People who have been investing in gold for a very long time thinking that the dollar is going to die. But you have the exact same argument. The government deficits are out of hand. True. The Federal Reserve is, quote unquote, printing a bunch of bank reserves, which is increasing the money supply. Not necessarily true, but that is a belief that a lot of people have. I'm not going to go into the mechanics of the financial plumbing right now, but because of X, therefore the dollar is going to hyperinflate, which is going to take gold with it. And I'm saying this because I know quite a few people who have invested everything that they own into gold in 2009, 2010, when the Fed was, quote unquote, printing a bunch of bank reserves, bailing out the system, because they thought that that was the end of the dollar. But what happened? I mean, yes, gold increased in value, but you were wrong on your thesis, because bank reserves are not money. It's just an asset swap between two different counterparts from a bank to the Fed. So the dollar didn't hyperinflate, but you put your entire portfolio all in on one thesis. That was wrong because you were incompetent. But it's not really that you were incompetent. You just didn't know what you didn't know, that there's all this dollar demand outside of the US that is actually in a deficit of dollars because there's so much dollar denominated debt. And again, this is not the point of the video. All I'm saying is it's very easy to put yourself down a very wrong path because of not knowing what you don't know. And for any business, I see this a lot with salespeople. As I was saying, they get lucky. They close 3 or 4 clients and then they think, wow, I'm the absolute best at what I'm doing. Then you don't close anybody for a month. But eventually you get to the point where you are aware of your incompetence. And then it's a lot easier to grow from there, but it still takes time. Let's say 2 years after you become an advanced beginner and you're aware of the incompetence, you become pretty proficient. And you are quite competent in the area and you can speak on a lot of things, but you also know how far away from mastery you actually are. This is, I would say, probably where I am with my business, where I'm helping people that have a large business, but also a very large social media funnel their views into paying customers. And you're doing this from a variety of funnel tactics. But the main thing is just if you can 10x the amount of exposure somebody has, let's say you're getting 1 million views per month, and then across all platforms, you're getting 10 million views per month. It will be a natural occurrence to funnel people to your business. It is, if you have a very good business model that relates to what you're talking about, it is quite easy to funnel people because it is free advertisement, or not free advertisement, but a better form of advertising. So I can now look at somebody's business and I can see what they're doing wrong from a funneling standpoint, from a media standpoint, and very quickly. Then you have the experts who do this for themselves and they are crushing it. And they've been doing this for, let's say, 5 to 7 years every single day. And they are, let's say in jujitsu, they're a brown belt and they are just incredible, which most people don't get to in many subjects of understanding, except your full-time job that you have. Most people are an expert or proficient on just about one subject. And then you are a novice and very much not aware of your incompetence on every other subject, because most people don't have the desire to learn when they're out of work. So let's say you're a doctor or a lawyer or something, you're probably an expert, and then later in your life maybe become a master, but probably not, because this goes down to you get complacent. Most people, they get a job and they're kicking ass for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, but then you become 30, you have a kids, you settle down, you have a family, and you realize that you know what, you were great at your job, and you stop thinking about work as much, and you stop putting in the time and effort that it takes to adapt to all the new technology that is coming out and all the new things that are changing. Because most fields, most businesses, let's say we're taking that same example of the puzzle, and at first you know a very small piece of the puzzle that is, let's say, 1 or 2 pieces, and then that makes you think that you've solved the entire puzzle. Then you go through the series and you start to fill out the puzzle. Let's say you do master it and you fill out the entire puzzle. What happens is the puzzle is not stagnant. It's actually increasing in size and changing its shape as new business practices are developing and new technologies coming into place, and there's new different practices. There's new studies that change a lot of the dynamics that were in that puzzle, which makes you need to adapt and refill out the puzzle. So most people get complacent and they start to lose most of their steam, and they are no longer a master, even though they think that they are. The people who really stick with it, which is so rare, which is why I'm so fortunate. I'm working with someone right now, Ken McElroy. He is 60 something, and he's been doing real estate his entire life. He now has like a $2 or $3 billion portfolio. He has 10,000 rental units. He's making millions of dollars per month, and he's still thinking about this stuff every single that day. He's truly world class at what he did. He could easily retire and no longer think about this, but he does. He thinks about this all day, every day. That is truly someone who has exceeded all expectations in life. And him, he always says, you got to take the ego out of it. You are not as smart as you think you are. If you are making a bunch of money, especially if this is in the first beginning few years of your career and your business, it is, most of it is probably luck and the market cycles and your confidence that is allowing you to get these customers. It is not necessarily how great you are. He said you will be humbled when there is a severe downturn in the economic activity. You have to be prepared for something like that. And that's when you really grow, because no one learned when they're making money. Unfortunately, it's a very hard thing to do, to learn while you're making, let's say, 100 grand per month. You're thinking that you are the smartest thing, and everything you do is just mightiest as touch, and everything you touch just turns into gold because you're the man. I've seen this happen to so many people that they think that because they're making money, that means they know everything about the subject. Were those really the people who crash and burn? then you learn to adapt, and a lot of those people bounce back afterwards. But it's something that I'm very aware of and I've seen happen over and over and over again, which is what I mean, this is probably for the good and bad, but all my friends are 50 plus years old and they all have years and years of experience. That's a good thing because I have unlimited wisdom around me, but I also don't necessarily have a lot of close friends who are super hungry at trying to kick ass every single day, uh, like myself. So it is the yin and yang. I right now just have the yin.